We're at Westminster Abbey, the church which has seen more royal occasions than anywhere else.
Weddings, funerals, coronations, births and deaths. This place has seen them all over more than 1,000 years.
Welcome to National Treasures Jubilee Special.
Welcome to Westminster Abbey, Royal Church, World Heritage Site and one of the most visited historic buildings in the UK.
Over the next hour, we'll be visiting some of the Abbey's secret spaces, talking to the people who keep it looking so beautiful and revisiting some extraordinary moments from its long history. People who were in the Abbey on that very day are here to share some of their memories today. David Bainbridge and David Overton were part of the 350-strong choir who sang during the ceremony. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming back, because, of course, you were young boys when you first sang here. Happy memories, though, I imagine.
It is amazing.
How did you first get involved?
Well, after the late King passed away, the Royal School of Church...
Well, the Queen's coronation was the 38th to have been held here, but have you ever wondered why we have kings and queens in the first place? Michael Douglas from The One Show has. So Dan lured him out on one of their history road trips to fill him in. Cue the camper van.
I don't have any super fond memories of it, except the coronation party. That was.
But it's still those big royal moments, like last year's wedding of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, with 25 million watching live in the UK. The building was rigged with cameras everywhere in order to capture every moment of the service. Well, almost every moment. Oh, what's behind the door? Well, it's this. One of the most private and spiritually significant parts of the building, the shrine. This is the tomb of Edward the Confessor, the founder of the 11th century abbey, and it's ringed by the tombs of the Plantagenet king. In all, there are 5 kings and 4 queens buried here. There was another witness to events. On April the 29th last year, the royal party were joined by the Dean of Westminster, the Very Reverend Dr. John. William and Catherine are going to be our future king and queen, and last year's wedding was a piece of history we could all share in, although perhaps not as intimately as the Dean of Westminster. Their popularity has boosted support in the monarchy, but royals haven't always been so popular. Dan and Michael now continue their royal road trip in the Midlands, where in the 17th century people didn't like the monarchy much, and they decided to do something about it. Not exactly, because to pick up the story, Cromwell was buried here in the Lady Chapel. That's the Tudor addition to the Abbey. Now, it's always seemed a bit strange to me that someone who stood for overturning the status quo and rejecting the trappings of royalty was quite so keen to be buried here, right next to the graves of Henry VII, Elizabeth I and Mary, Queen of Scots. Under his rule as Lord Protector, the stained glass windows were broken and the place was smashed up a bit. Not exactly evidence that Cromwell was the Abbey's biggest fan, yet he was absolutely determined that he should be in the company of all these royals after his death.
And that's really the irony with Cromwell. He thought of himself as just as important as any monarch in Britain's history.
The heritage of this beautiful building.
I'll tell you what, Sian, now I realise just how much hard work goes into keeping it in this incredible condition. I hope we've whetted your appetites for exploring more of our history during this Jubilee year. Thank you for watching.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.